Alright, good evening everyone. I'm Professor McCoy, welcome back to Mass Effect Andromeda. Sorry about the late start, I had a late evening tonight. We should be all set to get going and jump right into things. A bunch more to do on Kadara tonight, including some advancement of the main plot and some discussions thereof, and talking about potential betrayals and all that. If you recall, the main plot currently, what's currently going on, we're tracking down a cache, a data cache, or actually, I think it was a data router. We'll have to find out. I forget exactly. A bit of evidence left off by an Angara who betrayed the Moshae to the Ket, hoping to appease them. The idea being that if he betrays the Moshae in particular to the Ket, that'll have two effects. One, it will get the Ket to lay off on their kidnappings of other Angara, because now they have the Moshae, who is a powerful and respected figure, who high-value target, and so they'll be more likely to lay off of lower value and lower priority targets. Which makes a certain kind of sense, but I do think that it is unlikely to be the least bit effective, really, all told. We also have another monolith over here to do.
You can extract minerals via your mining.
There's, of course, and so the appeasement aspect is one significant part.
Goes underground.
Hopefully there's a way down. But we're gonna need a really big drill.
Need that memory trigger up there. Time to rock climb. Anyway. So yeah, it's so there's the appeasement aspect, which, I mean, if we know anything from real-world history, appeasing an enemy like the Ket is doomed to failure.
Sam, another memory trigger?
Yes, though my memory array remains locked. Additional triggers are required.
Okay. What do we have next? Let's go swing left and around. So in addition, though, in addition to the aspect of... Oh, jeez, this is interesting.
Not looking good for the Angara.
In addition to the aspect of appeasement, there's also the concern of he wanted to try to limit resource uses. Because the Angaran resistance was expending a great deal of resources on protecting the Moshae, he figured that those resources were effectively being wasted. Headshot. Which, I mean, being realistic, if they are wasting significant enough resources on defending a largely symbolic target like the Moshae that could have long-term or overall strategic significance, losing her. Excuse me. However, even a symbolic target is a symbolic target for a reason. There's a reason that the symbolic targets are heavily defended for, first of all, because they have the Moshae being a foremost expert on Angaran history and even science. has a great deal of value to the Resistance, even just as an asset, nothing more. And because of that value, deciding for the Resistance to reallocate their resources away from protecting the Moshae is almost certainly a reallocation of resources in the wrong direction. I saw a memory trigger over there. I'm going to go grab it before I try and find the underground access. This actually reminds me of a point that's often made by sort of libertarian economists.
This area could be viable for an initiative outpost, Pathfinder. However, for any long-term success, you'll need to find a solution to Kadara's water toxicity problems.
This is Sloane's territory. Gotta make a deal with her first.
Another eidetic trigger, Sam?
Yes, though my memory array remains locked. Additional triggers are required.
Hostiles ahead!
Alright. Not something I want to deal with.
Got them all.
Now we did. No, we didn't. Just get riddled. I mean, eventually, I suppose, Vetra will hit someone. Might take a little while. Anyway, so. Why this reminds me of a point made by at least commonly by libertarian economists, which, incidentally, I'm going to be teaching a bit about tomorrow, is that it points to the futility of control economies, or command economies, technically speaking. Even with sort of benevolent motives. If you want to make something illegal in order to help somebody, helping someone out by making their actions illegal,
Okay.
say drug dealing
or
or
fix Kadara's.
whatever else, take a pick. Or even a really, really common example of this is minimum wage laws. If somebody would choose to work for less than minimum wage, making it illegal to do so is by necessity not going to help them. All the way up there. Okay, that's a huge pain. I'm not going there. The reason it's not going to help them is because Tom Woods puts it like this, that when someone has... Oh, Lord! That's a problem. I have to go around to get to that. Stop with the combat music. I've left. Jesus. That space bear just fell out of the sky. Anyway.
Another murder victim. I have logged the relevant information.
Okay. This is all very dangerous cliff scaling. Alright, there we go. Anyway. The way Tom Woods puts it, this idea, is that you cannot help someone. Help someone to make a better, give someone something better by taking away the option that they actually chose. Unless your assumption is that you strictly know better than they do what is best for them in their life. Oh, it's the Rick lore.
Think that's it?
I hope so. Stop the music. You're not gonna. Okay, fine. Anyway, so...
What do you miss most about the Milky Way, Vedra?
Understanding how shit works. Back home I knew the politics, the people, the places. Here everything's new.
Don't worry about that.
You can't play the system when you don't know what it is.
I don't know about that. The way the Nexus treated us Krogan seems like the system came with us.
Okay, I gotta go around. It's fine. Oops. Button. Yeah, so, unless you're going to assume, presume, I suppose would be probably a better statement, that you know better than the person making the choice what they ought to choose. And that would require an absolute, a near perfect understanding of their particular circumstances and situations, as well as their preferences. Unless you're going to make that assumption, then you need to reconcile with the fact that what someone else chooses is what they at least take to be the best option that they have available to them. Now, if they're not aware of an additional option, say, then they can be helped by being made aware of a better option, perhaps. But that does not require the force of law or anything like that. That simply requires someone to be, informed of something. That requires information. That's voluntary exchange.
Approaching nav point for the weapons cache, Pathfinder.
Hope it's worth the credits.
It's gonna be an ambush, obviously.
The Turians set us up. What a
Yep.
surprise.
Now is appropriate for combat music. Okay, that is a powerful program. To be going toe-to-toe with Rex like that? Damn.
Reload!
Okay, taken care of. Protect your shields. Take your head. There we go. Got him. Is there another one over there? Yep.
I think that's all
Excellent. All right. Wait, that's right. I need to scan this Turian anarchist, don't I? Oh, no. Okay. I needed to scan that Krogan berserker, but his body disintegrated, so whoops.
It's full. After that ambush, I thought the whole thing was a scam.
Turian still got explaining to do.
Yeah. A little bit less explaining, though. Okay, let's go. Anyway, so yeah, I am actually quite looking forward to basically teaching a basic economics class tomorrow, tying it in with a lot of what we've talked about, because what we've been talking about this semester in large part involves human action and what it is for a human being to act and to act as a person. In a morally significant fashion, using means to achieve ends, all of the kind of stuff that dates back to, mostly dates back to Aquinas, but is also characteristic of, say, the Austrian School of Economics, and most notably, Murray Rothbard. Because Rothbard is in fact, who we are reading for class tomorrow. I'm out of range, aren't I? Okay. See about here. Spacefarer is going to turn aggressive to me very soon. There's a lot of Rick Lores. Real cores or whatever. Okay, let's see what else we got. Anyway, yeah, I'm always impressed when I read really just about anything from Rothbard, but mostly is very basic praxeology stuff. How much he bears in similarity to Thomists. Okay, their weak point is not their head. That's weird. Killed them both. Nicely done. Alright, cool. The funniest thing about that whole thing, that whole point to me,
Nice work.
it is not that, well, I'm going to be teaching, libertarian economic theory, or it's not even libertarian economic theory, it's just Austrian school economic theory. in the classroom, which is already, like, I guess, subversive, at least to some degree. Okay. That's already subversive to some degree, right? But I'm always dumbfounded by how many sort of traditionalist types, especially the, like, excuse me, the more trad type type traditionalists, how quick they are to dismiss libertarianism for one, Austrian economics in particular, but even really just economics in general. Traditionalists have this weird tendency to entirely dismiss the discipline of economics, which, man, that's not a good thing. In fact, doing so is, I would argue,
Undocumented mineral nearby, Pathfinder.
it makes it functionally impossible to understand large aspects of the world and large aspects of especially human interaction.
But maybe when there's less stuff on fire.
Petra, what are you shooting at? Yeah, the Space Bear is probably coming after me, but it's fine. I'll ignore it for now. I'm sure everything will be fine. Anyway. Yeah, it really bugs me how ready so many sort of traditionalists, especially traditionalist Catholics, how ready they are to just completely ignore the findings of a school of thought that is Austrian economics and sort of Austro-libertarianism even. How quick they are to ignore such a school of thought, which is just derived from Thomas Aquinas. It's really sad, first of all, because we as Catholics should be in a position to be most easily correct about most things because we have insights into how the world really works. We have metaphysical and theological and ethical and all sorts of insights that are very important to understanding the world. And yet, for some reason, too many, at least self-proclaimed traditionalists, are just entirely there we go. It seems to me that a lot of traditionalists are just completely enamored with the politics of G.K. Chesterton, just like they're enamored by his drinking and smoking habits. And I think that's primarily because they see things like economics as something more like a fashion statement than it is like a real and objective field of inquiry. And so they take one particular position because they happen to like it, and they happen to think that it fits with the general aesthetic.
Does it seem secure?
It's secure. I promise.
Back in my day, upgrades were handmade, custom fitted. None of this off the rack, snap together shit.
Don't say uphill both ways. Don't say it.
Turians didn't used to be so damn lippy either.
Oh my god. Glorious. It's old man time. Love it. So anyway, the maybe I'm being too dismissive or unkind of the traditionalists who find some insights in Chesterton, because let's be realistic, Chesterton had some insights. The problem was that most of those
Let's get back to Daenerys.
most of those insights were not economic or even political. They were purely sociological. In terms of those insights primarily being about how society sees itself and how society was coming to view Christianity. I think Chesterton was right about a lot of that. But the problem, of course, being that Chesterton, Belloc, the rest of the distributists were heinously wrong when it came to actual politics. Because
Pathfinder, my sensors read an Andromeda plant sample nearby.
they had basically a socialist outlook because it was in fashion at the time. But that socialist outlook was tempered by Catholic social teaching. And the problem there, of course, being that those two are fundamentally incompatible. Right? Catholic social teaching and socialism per se are fundamentally incompatible, and so you absolutely cannot mix the two. Distributism is an attempt to mix
Lots of
the
regret
two.
on the Nexus about you guys leaving. Most everyone realizes we're weaker without the Krogan backing us up.
Had to happen. We're done being pushed around.
Wasn't us doing the pushing.
This is the murder
That
site
was
Mr.
leadership's
Vidal asked you
mistake.
to investigate.
And the rest of you pay for it the way it always goes, kid.
I will say that there's a really nasty. There's a lot of history between their people, between the Krogan and the Turians, and a lot of it involves the Turians, and the Solarians for that matter, really, with the council races, broadly speaking, using the Turian using the Krogan.
Venturev claimed he buried the Ket transponder near this location.
Using the Krogan for military purposes, and
Reyes,
then
I'm at the crime scene.
Great.
basically screwing
I've
them
got
over.
intel on our dead guy. Krogan male. Went by the name of ZR. His frontal plate was pried off before he was shot
Jesus.
to death.
Poor bastard.
Not one of mine.
Do your scanning thing. Look for anything that might lead us to the killer.
These footprints are distinctly Angaran.
I
Those
count
are?
at least 3 attackers. The tracks make it look like an ambush.
Fits the Rokar profile. It's a start.
Rokar, huh? Not disturbed. Recent reports of toxic water supply in the Badlands. The plans for large-scale settlement have been cancelled. Instead, this area will be sealed off and converted to a penal colony. Anyone who fails to evacuate does so at their own risk. Will be considered a permanent resident of the territory and will be allowed back in. Slum Kelly. Yeah, that's not great. There's our victim.
Angaran blood. Matches your Rokar theory, Reyes.
DNA cannot identify political affiliations.
Keep scanning. We need hard evidence.
Okay, what's this? A frying pan. Living off local wildlife. That's tough. Knives. There. Knife block. Trace amounts of genetic material found only on the handles of the knives, most likely transferred when cooking. Too thin in diameter to be the murder weapon. Okay. What do we have here? New entry. More mines went missing. Damn scavs. Not gonna bother putting them out anymore. Oh, it's a stupid precaution anyway. If someone's got the quads to take me on head on, I welcome the challenge. It's a lot of blood. What's this? A bottle. Okay, he had been drinking. Either had been drinking or, just drinks sometimes. Which, listen, if he's a Krogan. It's not surprising. Maybe it's outside? It's underneath? Oh, that's a... How did I miss that?
A knife.
It's an Ingaran Firan.
Killer must have dropped it
Firkan,
during the getaway.
Fikran, or whatever it is.
Something's carved into the blade.
It's Shalash, the Angaran trade language. A home filled with strangers becomes a prison.
Sounds pretty Rokar.
This
also
inscription,
literal
along
here.
with the DNA and footprints, supports the theory proposed by Mr. Vidal, Pathfinder.
Let's pay our local Rokar a visit.
You know where they are?
I wasn't sitting on my ass this whole time. I'm looking at the place right now.
Send me the coordinates. These murders stopped today.
Like Vidal. There's people here. Here's the thing.
Found it.
That thing's busted.
The transponder's power source is drained.
So let's juice it up. Turn it on, then Gil can work his magic.
Once complete, this should provide us with the Archon's location, and in turn, Meridian's.
We're one step closer to building a home in Helios.
Oh yeah, the hard part's totally behind us.
I mean, some of the hard parts are behind us. So that's, you know, we're making progress, okay? Why is that pixelated? What's going on here? Riley, about Samaj. Keep an eye on him. He's been complaining about you know what, and I don't want you know who finding out. Remind him of the oath if he disregards. Oh, one last mouse defeat in Malix. What? The oath. Interesting. What's going on here? Cool prefabs. And Malix.
Welcome to Caribdis Point. Name's Malix. You looking for a place to hole up? Got some open beds. Food and clean water cost extra.
Take it you don't have any private rooms?
I could put up a sheet.
I'll pass.
Suit yourself.
You get a lot of business out here?
Our establishment might not look like much, but spend a few nights in the Badlands and we're practically Hotel Azure. Clean beds, warm grub, and the only place for miles with properly filtered water. Serious amenities on Kadara.
That's a fair point.
How'd you end up on Kadara?
Followed Sloane from the Nexus, but couldn't pay her protection fees. No fancy port for me.
She forced you out?
Those are the rules. Can't pay the fees, can't live on the mountain. First few months were tough. No water, no weapons to hunt. I really thought I was gonna die out here.
You obviously pulled through.
I didn't travel 600 years to starve to death. I found other exiles. Put the strength in numbers theory to the test. Thus, Caribdis Point was born.
So come back to the initiative. Honestly, there needs to, at some point, be a general amnesty program. Like, yes, there are all sorts of problems doing so, like letting legitimately heinous criminals in on serious issues, but things like, I mean, maybe a parole type of program would be perfectly reasonable as well. But it needs to happen, especially with the numbers. Like, man, the numbers about this whole thing really just kill me. That, especially considering how many Scott Ryder has personally killed, how many Milky Way colonists Scott Ryder has personally killed, and then how many more we've seen die in similar situations. Man, like, we need these numbers to, like, desperately. We need all these people to sort of come back into the fold.
One of your neighbors was murdered.
ZR's dead?
Very. Know anything that could help me track his killer?
No. ZR had a habit of shooting anyone who got close to his lawn. Still, grumpy bastard had his uses. People think twice about robbing you when there's a Krogan next door.
Yeah.
I better get going.
Good neighbors, I guess.
See you around.
Well-armed neighbor is a good and polite neighbor. Visitor's log. Okay, Caribdis Point rules. What you do in your bunk is your business, but keep the noise down. No stealing, no killing, no violence of any kind. Keep to your bunk in the common areas. Meals are a strict schedule. If you're late, that's your problem. We hold the right to kick your ass out at any time. Yeah, I mean, fairly reasonable. What's with the name? I dated a human once who liked mythology. Neat. And I think it more or less fits. It's not quite enough of a trap to be too closely related to Charybdis, but whatever. Let's see. What you know? Ah, the Rokar all the way down there. And I forgot the forward station drop point over here. Because I'm a big dumb dummy. Alright, well. Front. Gracia. Memory trigger. Scanner anomaly. Wait, where's the, bodies? Oh, the vault. Oh, the vault's way up there. Okay. Wow, that seems not at all equidistant between the three. But whatever. Okay, sure. Yeah, let's fast travel here for now. Then head south. Meet up with Reyes.
All that activity for a guess about a galaxy.
I got hit by a power loader. Driver was on 3 calls about where to store rations. Punched it right in the gyros.
Oof. Stop shooting me! Just stop. Just stop. I don't want this. I am driving by, you lunatics.
The exiles have quite a setup over there. Won't be happy to see us.
God, you absolute lunatics. I am just driving by. God.
This is it. Rhea's actually gonna show up.
Let's go to the forward station point first, just so we can get our fast travel going.
Activating automated forward station deployment.
Looks like those exiles stole tech from the port. We should be careful.
Mining zones have been added to your nav system, Pathfinder.
Shot him right through it. Any more? I know there's one more. Where? Where are you? Okay, you get stuck T-posing, that's why. Don't need that. Don't need that. Oh, I took his arm. Apparently. Okay. Alright, we're all set. Pretty good here. Alright, let's head back over to Reyes. Hey, Dominic. Good evening. Good question. Dominic asks, what did the medievals think of aliens? You could mean a couple of things. If you mean foreigners, the obvious answer is...
Every time you say that, I believe you less.
The obvious answer is distrust. They broadly mistrusted or distrusted foreigners. But I don't think that's what you're asking, given that we're playing Mass Effect. I think you're asking about extraterrestrials. So, a couple of things about that. First of all, there were just as many legends, like myths and legends, about extraterrestrial aliens as there are today, throughout the Middle Ages. In fact, the first science fiction story was... it was called Another World. And it was a late Roman work. It's thought of as the first science fiction story because it's about, like, what if we could travel to another world, and there were people there, and they had their own developed communities and such, and it was alien, it was different from ours, and it was called Another World, and I think it was in the 3rd or 4th century, give or take. So it was common. It was commonly thought about, like the question of aliens. Other worlds like ours. Elsewhere, whether that's elsewhere up there in the heavens, although maybe not, or just created in a different realm by God. Relatively common kind of thing to think about, even throughout the Middle Ages.
Reyes
Now,
should be here.
I detect no sign
Other
of Mr.
worlds
Kadara,
in the
Pathfinder.
heavens?
Shall we proceed without him?
That's not... Don't move.
Oh, uh-oh.
Were we too loud?
Shut up. Farah will deal with you.
I got a cousin named Farah. It's probably a different one. Different Farah. Why are you boxing with rifles? With initiative rifles?
I don't need to tell you what happens next.
Settle down. We only came to talk.
We don't talk with outsiders. You'll bleed, just like the others.
So it's true. You murdered innocent people.
Invaders and sympathizers are not innocent. I will protect my home.
Don't let your hate poison you. We can coexist.
Like here on Kadara. Sloane lies to my people and uses them for power.
I'm not Sloane.
You are all the same.
Not so fast.
You're late.
I've got a good reason. You'll see in 3,
Why are you using a
Don't
cat
just
rifle?
stand there.
2,
Kill them.
Whoa! Okay. She got
feel mad?
toasted. Also, why a cat rifle?
Die.
That is not going to be, like... Wrong button. Cat rifle is not going to aggrandize you to these people. Like, they're not going to like that. Alright, there we go. Anyway, Dominic, now that that's handled for the moment, I will say as well, though, I have a video on medieval cosmology, where I relate it to the sort of cosmology that's laid out in Dungeons and Dragons, which I argue is a pretty good approximation in some ways, but not in all ways, obviously. So, hold on, let me write this down. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link after the stream in the description so you can check it out. But if we take that cosmology, which is broadly Aristotelian, if we take that directly and if we take that literally and seriously, it doesn't leave a lot of room for other planets in the heavens bearing life. Primarily because gravity is purely directional. Right? It's down. And there is an absolute down. It's towards the center of the Earth. And that's it. And that applies to everything. Everything everywhere is attracted downwards, including everything up there. And so having another planet with its own ecosystem, broadly speaking, is a little bit hard to reconcile with that particular cosmological framework. However, it is, per official church doctrine, it is not impossible to reconcile. We know this because in 1277, shortly after Aquinas, there were a series of a whole bunch of neo-Aristotelian propositions that were condemned as heretical, because they took particularly the naturalistic elements of Aristotle that was just sort of being rediscovered at the time by Aquinas and contemporaries, mostly contemporaries. Worth noting, no propositions directly stated by Aquinas were condemned. This was by the Bishop of Paris in 1277. It was a regional council. It was not an ecumenical council, so this is not necessarily dogmatically binding, but it's part of the ordinary magisterium. So make of that what you will. But there were a great many neo-Aristotelian propositions that were condemned as heretical, that no Catholic may hold. And these were mostly things where people were taking mostly the physics of Aristotle and taking it in ways that were contrary to doctrine, to Catholic doctrine. One of those propositions which was condemned was that God could not make, I believe it's could not have made other worlds. The implication being, and this was clarified, the implication being other worlds like Earth, like our world. So, what this means is, it is officially Catholic doctrine that other worlds like Earth, meaning bearing life and presumably bearing human beings in the broad sense, in the sort of metaphysically significant sense of rational animals, other worlds like ours are possible, necessarily possible. There is nothing in Revelation that precludes the existence, nothing in Revelation or the natural sciences, I should add, that precludes other life-bearing worlds like ours. Other Earths. This is Catholic doctrine. So, the fact that this came up, this question had to come up one way and the other in the 13th century, that greatest of centuries, tells you that this was a very, very active question throughout the Middle Ages. Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the possibility of other worlds that God created with human beings on them, like us? Or are we talking about other worlds with strange alien monsters, such as our good friend Vetra here? Who knows? Different people thought different things. And there were all sorts of wild speculations, some fictional, intended as fictional and mythological, and some intended as genuine proposals, as possibilities. And so there was a lot of discussion about it then, just like there is now. which is really cool. We don't think of that today. We don't think of the possibility of extraterrestrials as being a big deal 1,000 years ago. They really were.
You did good, Ryder.
There are no streets on
Don't
Kadara.
worry.
What is wrong with you?
I'll let all the important people know who to thank.
Maybe the exiles will see the initiative in a new light.
Anything's possible. Admit it, some of that was fun.
All
Some
right.
of it.
I knew it. You're all right. Don't be a stranger, Pathfinder.
All right, you old smoothie. He reminds me a lot of Lando Calrissian. His character writing has a lot of Lando in him. All right, that's not it. It's a point of interest. Let's go here. Hop down, do the vault, swing back, package deal. Oh yeah, the Turian who sold us the bad intel. Well, the good intel, but with an ambush. Then back to the scan data, and then back to the port. Sounds good to me. Onward! I know we also have a lot more, now that we have done some exploring on Kadara.
All right.
I know there
What
are...
Perhaps Reyes has another job for you.
There are a lot more side quests that are going to pop
Made
up.
6 new sounds getting out of bed this morning. Creaks and just things moving. You get that, Vetra?
No, I don't get that. And I sure don't talk about it.
When you reach a certain age, you just make previously undiscovered sounds when getting up and out of bed.
Think
It
that's
happens. You know, it really does. It just happens. That's how it works. Let's do that one. Let's go. Let's do this vault. It's dark. Why isn't my suit light turning on? Is there a control for that? Powers, weapons. No. Holster weapon. Squad mate orders. Scanner. Look. Mission tracker, codex. They're all menu things. Favorites, consumables. Push to talk. But you can use dual keypads? That's weird. Dialogue option. No, okay. It's not a thing. Do I? No. Just for some reason, my suit light is not turning on. I don't know why. That's weird. Kind of annoying. But I'll survive, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, that is actually the fact that the possibility of other worlds is a Catholic doctrine.
Okay.
Particularly one that
Remnant
was
Vault.
settled in the High Middle
Let's get this
Ages.
place up and running.
That is one of my favorite weird little interesting factoids. One of my favorite things to really point out that most people don't realize. Because we think of the Middle Ages as silly, primitive, and backwards, which couldn't be further from the truth, of course, but... And a lot of people
Turn
recognize
the power on.
You'll need to locate the console to activate
that it couldn't
the
be further from the
purification
truth.
field, Pathfinder.
This is gonna hurt.
Several interface connections converge here. I will highlight the ones you need.
Great. Ouchie fields. Good thing I have very strong shields. Anyway.
Okay. We should be able to get to the purification console.
Yeah, that is actually, I will say, one of my favorite weird little factoids. Especially my favorite weird little addenda about Catholic doctrine as well as about medieval culture. Because that really does tell us a lot about medieval culture, is that those sorts of ideas were being discussed that we might not ordinarily think
fun,
so.
Isn't it? The unknown.
So this is to say, all this is to say, I suppose, that our two games that we've been playing, this and Kingdom Come Deliverance, are, to some degree, connected. Insofar as Henry of Skalitz...
Pathfinder, this may affect your escape from the purification field.
That's fine, right?
Hit them now!
That Henry of Skalitz could perfectly well understand and comprehend this sort of story. A story of travel to other worlds and other such strange things. Oh, that was very close to being very bad. Which is interesting to think about. You know, medieval peasant from the early 15th century, I suppose, not 13th. Although, really, the 13th century, or the 13th century is far more interesting to me. In part, just because of Aquinas. Nice.
Pathfinder, the way across is console activated.
Let's activate that console. Okay, so I can get in over there, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna explore more of this vault first. There's a lot more to explore. Yeah, Dominic says the medievals were great synthesizers. Especially, again, I will say especially in the 13th century. That being the century of Aquinas and Scotus, for that matter, who both were incredible synthesizers of ideas. That the understanding of the world really develops from bringing ideas together, rather than just kind of what we might think of as the mode of discovery, which is coming up with new ideas as such. Let's not tick them off. Brrr. Darn it.
Let's see you deal with this.
Okay, taken care of. Yeah, we today are obsessed with novelty, of genuine novelty. I have funny stories about this actually, which I suppose I can bring up, especially in an academic context. But yeah, the medievals thought in terms of, and this relates to what I was talking about with the sort of their theory of history and relating it to Tolkien, that the medievals understood that they were standing on the shoulders of giants, that they were, if anything, passing on and bringing together ideas of people grander and smarter than they were in the past. Dominic also says the medievals also had great legends to be rivaled with Russian fairy tales. I mean, most Russian fairy tales are from the Middle Ages and are from that cultural milieu anyway. So yeah, of course, absolutely. By that I mean the medievals seem to be the point in history in which you could find everything. Yeah, yeah. There was a lot that was abandoned in the Renaissance, and that's basically another thing that I've talked about as well. That's what I've talked about with Alistair McIntyre, in his disquieting suggestion at the beginning of his book After Virtue, talks about a sort of hypothetical cataclysm where we can imagine, well, what if we had at some point, completely disregarded and threw away the findings of science due to for some silly personal reason, for silly cultural reasons. And then in the future, someday, we thought, well, maybe we need to recover what we used to do, this whole science thing. Well, we would reconstruct it in a really weird way, probably in an incorrect and atypical sort of way. That's what happened with ethics, and I would also argue, he talks about ethics, but I would also argue metaphysics as well. In the Renaissance, is we disregarded the medieval synthesis. We just threw it all away because we thought we could do better, and we were wrong. That one. Okay, it's that one. And since then, we've been just dramatically confused, especially by ethics, but I would argue with
what do we get?
Metaphysics as well. Ooh, research.
This contains valuable data, Pathfinder. You may want to scan it. Maybe you will be glad to know you have found another of these devices.
There you go, Peebs. Yeah, we today, I was saying before, we today are obsessed with novelty. Particularly in our thinking, in our sort of intellectual pursuits, we're obsessed with novelty, of coming up with new ideas, rather than of synthesizing old ideas, or reconfiguring and restructuring things that we ought to already know, things like that. Things like the medievals would have thought was the core of intellectual pursuits. Oh, okay. How did we end up throwing at metaphysics? I'll get to that in a moment. Remind me if I wander off from that topic, but I want to bring this up first because it's quite relevant. Hello. So, anyway, what this reminded me of was when I was an undergrad. Very early in my undergraduate career, I think I was a sophomore when this happened. I was taking an ancient philosophy class on Plato primarily. This was a professor who I've since come to greatly respect, who is an expert on Plato. And at the beginning of the semester, like first day of class, she said something to the effect of, I wish I could remember the specifics, but she said something along the lines of this, that what we are talking about in this class, Plato.
You can hack the turret, Pathfinder.
I'd like to, yes. Great.
What do we have here?
Okay. Because we're talking about Plato, we are talking about something that countless scholars, all smarter than any of us, have been talking about for over 2,000 years. None of us, meaning our, 19 through 22-year-old undergraduate selves, had any chance whatsoever of saying really anything new or interesting about Plato. Because of course we couldn't. That'd be ridiculous. There is so much that has been said. Anything that we could say would probably have been said before by other people, at least in some way, even if not in the way that we would say it. Which said, that's the important part. That no, you're not going to come up with some brand new insight on Plato that nobody else has ever before, because that's ridiculous. And I, being an unbelievably hubristic little shit of a 19-year-old, thought that was deeply offensive. That of course, oh no.
Interface failed, Pathfinder.
Oh,
Defense
great.
systems engaging.
Okay. But naturally, right, I thought that, no, I was going to come up with something brand new no one had ever thought of about Plato. Of course, that was ridiculous. Of course I wasn't. And I should have known this. But, for right. But I was so offended by this idea that I actually switched out of the class, and I didn't wind up taking ancient philosophy with her until a couple of years later, when I had realized that she was absolutely right. And I was, even at that point, I was far too embarrassed to say anything about this. And I told her about this years later, and she laughed and basically said, "I told you so." Because it was genuinely funny. And I try and tell this to my students as well, hopefully in a way that isn't going to, at least I try not to offend their delicate undergraduate sensibilities. Because we've all had delicate undergraduate sensibilities at some point or another. So I try not to offend them too much. Point being, though, is that we really ought to take this seriously, this idea that we're not going to revolutionize the world. That most of the thoughts that we have been thought before by other people. But that what our job should be as intellectuals, as scholars, is to organize those ideas. And to think, and to sort of build upon what we have received, not to try and revolutionize and ultimately change everything that we receive. To come up with new ideas or anything like that. That's patently ridiculous. Of course we're not going to come up with radically new ideas. It's a close call. Fantastic. That's it? All that for just rep ammo? Oh my god. Alright, whatever. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that was quite the learning experience I had, and I'm very glad that I had it early on. I had that realization early on in terms of my academic career. I had that realization that no, I was not going to completely change and revolutionize the field with never before thought new ideas or anything like that. Because to even think so is unbelievably hubristic. Instead, we should think of ourselves as, like I said, as thinking what has already been thought, but hopefully thinking it well, and organizing it in with new discoveries.
Let's get all of these activated. Here they come.
Where are they? Where? Oh, over there. Who's zapping? Anyway, so the question of how did we end up throwing out metaphysics
They just keep coming.
Is perhaps controversial. Because, I mean, obviously we still do metaphysics. Right? It's not like we've stopped studying the nature of reality at all. It's just the way that we do it has so radically changed, and I would say in a diminished capacity, that we simply don't understand how to understand the world anymore. Oh god, I got too close. Oops. Oh. Anyway, let's try this again, shall we? What? Oh, I'm back very far. Okay. Onyx says, your thoughts on thinking what has been thought and thinking it well seem very similar to the orthodox idea of nous, which they get from Plato, again. So it's not new. Which leads me to another question, first the metaphysics. Yeah, so hopefully finishing up eventually, this idea of metaphysics. This is actually the topic of my dissertation, as it so happens. Both for metaphysics and metaethics, most of what we think of as the hard questions in philosophy, I argue, result from the rejection of the doctrine of the convertibility of the transcendentals. Particularly being with goodness. We reject things like metaphysical essentialism. We reject the idea of essences as such, which ultimately amounts to rejecting the idea of substances, which leads to a kind of metaphysical plenism, that there are not things, there is only stuff. Right? That makes sense. There are not things, there is only stuff. That I think that is I think the if not one of, if not the primary error in sort of contemporary what stands in for metaphysics. Is the rejection of substances, and substantial form, and everything that comes with that, because it to say that something is of a certain type is to say that there is a certain type, which is an objective quality of some things that is beyond the individual particular things. Okay, we're good.
This console will activate the purification field. You may want to sweep the area.
Yeah, I think I do.
Before this place tries to kill us, you mean?
So what I mean by there are not things, there is only stuff, is that the idea of substantial forms, or essentialism, broadly speaking, what philosophers call essentialism, is that there are particular things with particular essences. Those essences are definitive of what those things are. Things can be individuated, not just in terms of their usefulness, or not just in terms of arbitrary categories, like nominalism would have, but that they are actual things, and that goes all the way down to a metaphysical level. It's how you solve things like the Ship of Theseus problem. Right? So this is not merely a collection of particles arranged in a certain way. This is a cup, and it is full of coffee, and the cups and coffee are things. Now, both of those are artifacts, and so that gets complicated for Aristotelianism. Artifacts are only kind of substances. I argue that they are absolutely substances, and that's part of the Imago Dei is man's ability to subcreate. This follows Plato, this follows Scotus, this follows Tolkien. I've got an argument about that as well. Again, I'll link it in the description. Hold on. Write it down. But the idea, though, is that when we reject this idea of substantial form, of formal causes, of the thing being defined by what it is, what that also means is that we have no way of judging things, of applying objective standards to things, because to apply an objective standard, I'm going to move away from where it's so loud so you guys can maybe hear me. That when you have a thing, that thing is defined as a good version of that thing by what it is. And its being, its essence, is definitive of its goodness, right? This is a good coffee cup because it does coffee cup things well. It is designed well. It's large enough to hold a lot of coffee. It's made of ceramic, which is an appropriate material for that sort of thing. It has a separate handle, which makes it a mug rather than a cup. All sorts of things that make it good. However, here, notice, there's a chip. So there is something that is less than good about this cup. It's an error. It's actually a fault in the thing. It's not just that. It's not just a quirk of the particular arrangement of material particles or whatever, or not just an inconvenience. It's because it's not an inconvenience, really. It doesn't actually affect my use of the thing, but it's a fault. It's a flaw in the thing. It's something wrong with the thing, and we know that because this thing has a what it is to be this kind of a thingness to it. This is also why we have problems with definitions like, well, what is a woman? Got another video about that one too, where I look into that question and explain why the entire reason we have difficulty with that question is because of David Hume, who rejected all of this wholeheartedly. All of these metaphysical categories were rejected wholeheartedly by David Hume. But not first, right? Hume was not the first one.
Before this place tries to kill us, you mean?
Was not the first one to reject all of this.
Okay.
It goes back further
Get ready
than
to
that.
run.
I'm not just ready to run.
Here
I'm
it
running.
comes. Go, go!
Oh, jeez. Nope. I want that. Yeah, David Hume was probably the most thoroughgoing anti-essentialist philosopher, but he wasn't the first. This goes back to William of Ockham, Some people argue this goes back to Duns Scotus, but I kind of disagree with that. I think Scotus gets a really bad rap.
Never gets less terrifying.
And there are
Let's
even
get out of here.
aspects and pieces and parts where Occam still gets things right. Gets a lot of things right. Even with respect to some of this stuff. But he was a nominalist, and that's a problem. So. Anyway. This whole debate, this whole question, is only because we, as a society, the West, broadly speaking, rejected metaphysics very deliberately and intentionally. Now, it didn't come up in those words. We thought we were doing metaphysics throughout, say, the early modern period. A lot of them are explicit about doing metaphysics. The problem is they've rejected the entire framework which makes it possible, which is this essentialism, this convertibility of transcendentals, or this transcendental philosophy, or all of these things that are required to grasp things as they are, rather than as parts of just sort of arbitrary frameworks of understanding. Nominalism, primarily. By rejecting all of this, which really happened in the Renaissance, Renaissance to early modernity, really, largely rejected the Platonic and Aristotelian and sort of medieval scholastic, medieval synthesis framework, which was the foundational basis of metaphysics, particularly in the West, but it extends beyond that as well. That this is a major commonality between classical Eastern and Western thought as well. It was a grave problem. It was a very grave problem, with unfortunate but predictable consequences that we frankly no longer have any way of.
There's hope for Kadara yet.
Yeah, not if we can't get rid of these frickin' space bears. Frickin' dinosaurs, too. What's going on here?
I love this squad.
Okay. Why did you just explode, Vetra? I don't like it when you explode. Anyway, well, that was quite something. Now, let's go around to there, shall we? The water isn't toxic anymore. Yay! Dominic says, did I ever tell you I had a friend who studied philosophy and thought Kant was the worst and believed it would have been a great justice to remove his tongue and hands? I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know if it would have been a great justice. But I think it probably would have benefited the development of Western civilization if he happened to lose his tongue and hands. Then I think Western civilization would have probably developed along healthier routes.
That exile camp has a high concentration of registered criminals, Pathfinder.
Yeah, I'm gonna just run on by him then. Oh god. Yeah, I do think that Kant get a lot of things dramatically wrong. Particularly with his sort of pushing all of the important, significant, and interesting stuff into the realm of the noumenal. He basically makes it undiscoverable, even by conceptual analysis. And by drawing the noumenal phenomenal distinction so sharply, and then applying that distinction to every area of study that he possibly can, he winds up, again, making a bad situation with respect to our ability to comprehend metaphysics, making that bad situation all that much worse. Because now, not only are we having trouble understanding metaphysics because we've rejected the framework necessary, now we have an excuse for why it's so difficult to understand metaphysics. Well, it's because it's all in the noumenal, and we only have access to the phenomenal. But the noumenal is, according to Kant, again, it's like fundamentally undefined and undefinable, because most of the way we understand things, not the most of, the entire way we understand things is through these arbitrarily constructed frameworks that we impose upon the world, which are the phenomenal. But without those frameworks, which again he thinks are largely arbitrary, even things like space and time he thinks are largely arbitrary. Without those frameworks, then we can't understand reality. But there is a reality which is fundamental beyond our arbitrary imposition of things. The difference between Kant and sanity is that sane thinking holds that these concepts that we apply to reality are applied to reality because they are about reality. They are what reality is really like. Whereas Kant wants to say that no, these are just our frameworks of understanding. That is it. It is only we only understand the world that way because that is our way of understanding the world. He even argues that different civilizations, or at least different hypothetical creatures, different rational animals, say, so humans versus Turians versus Krogan, perhaps, lighting a candle, that we might have fundamentally different ways of understanding reality, and neither of us would be wrong. He essentially argues against the law of non-contradiction. And as Aristotle would say, such a person is no better than a plant, because even base animals are capable of grasping the law of non-contradiction.
Back again?
That nav point was a setup.
Setup? Was the cache not there?
Getting some... Oh, okay, never mind. Thought I was getting some lag, but it's gotten better.
Yeah, but so were a lot of exiles who tried to kill me.
I'm dropping frames.
I'm not
I don't know
responsible
what's
for the
going on here.
actions of
Sorry
my
about this.
other customers.
Other customers?
I may have sold the nav point to multiple people, but in my defense, I didn't think you'd all show up at once.
I want my credits back.
Sorry, sweetheart. I don't do refunds. Besides, you got your weapons. But I don't like unhappy
Fine, can I have their money?
customers. I'll give you a discount for your trouble. That's more than fair.
I mean, I suppose so. They didn't get their weapons. Can I get their money back? That only seems fair. Anyway. Yeah, I do have a lot of problems with Kant, but again, I don't think it was his fault, per se. I think that Kant's problems originate from far before him. Kant's problems were problems for Western philosophy that were already problems before Kant ran into them. I don't think the same can be quite said of Hume, though. Because Hume steered into the skid far more than Kant did.
They'll be looking to defend it.
Right, because Hume exacerbated the problems that were already present to a great degree.
This area can be mined for resources. You can
In a way that
extract
in a way that
minerals
a lot of
via
other
your
philosophers
interface.
didn't really do. They didn't like set out to make the problem worse in the way that Hume did. Will I be playing Diablo 4? I don't think so. I haven't actually played any of the Diablo games, believe it or not. Dominic says, you gotta love the anticipatory burns from the Socratics to the moderns. Yeah, because a lot of the moderns were just trying to... Because we spent early modernity rejecting all philosophical findings in the past, you'll find that a lot of the early moderns are basically just pre-Socratics in a lot of ways. You have atomists, you have the early materialists who were just atomists entirely. Just, again, which was a common pre-Socratic idea that was completely blown out of the water by Socrates. You had the weird Parmenideans, like oh gosh, Spinoza was basically Parmenides, just 2,000 years later. Um, it thought that things like with the idea of monads, the idea of a monad, a singular description of a particular monad, a particular indivisible unit of understanding, must include a complete and totalizing description of all of reality, because all of reality is fundamentally one substance. Well, that's Parmenides. All of that is just Parmenides, and it was completely refuted in the Socratic dialogue titled Parmenides. Like, so many of the early moderns are just pre-Socratics, because, and this is once again, this is just vindication of McIntyre's thesis that we used to do things called ethics, and I would argue also metaphysics, but then we rejected it at some point, and then we tried starting over, and we tried rebuilding it from what we knew, but it was doomed to failure because we had violently rejected everything, and now we were trying to pick up the pieces and do it our own way. Whereas what we should have done was tried desperately to reconstruct the system that had existed in a way that aligns with the way that we used to understand it and used to properly understand it, which is what some very few modern philosophers are doing. Modern meaning contemporary people living right now, and they're almost exclusively some kind of Aristotelians. Unfortunately, even modern Platonists don't tend to do this sort of thing. They don't go back to Plato and the Platonists. They apply Platonic means and methods and understandings to contemporary discourse, and it gets all confused and befuddled because they're not applying particularly Platonic insights. They're applying sort of Socratic methods and means. On the whole, there are exceptions to this, of course, but typically this is a big problem. Um, but when you have people who are broadly Aristotelian, or better yet, Thomistic Aristotelians or Aristotelian Thomists, depending on which one you take to be primary, uh, quite frankly, like Ralph McInerney, who is the primary text for my ethics class. These are people who are taking what we have always known, but forgot for a while, and saying, "Yeah, we always knew this. This is obvious. Of course, it's obvious. Here it is. Stop acting surprised. We all knew this, right?" Like, and again, this is it. It I have never before had students grasp ideas so outside the modern mainstream so quickly, readily, and easily as they have this semester, because McInerney and his explanations for things are so incredibly intuitive, because it's just an explanation of reality, and it's so easy to recognize that. If you don't have on modernist blinders. If you have modernist blinders on, you're going to have a hard time with it. If you're trying not to understand it, you won't understand it. But a lot of my students are actually gathering and grasping a lot of this stuff way better than they have in other contexts, and I'm so pleasantly shocked by it.
Hi again. Do you have the locations of the victims? It's the only way to make sure
Yes,
justice
ma'am.
is served.
Or you could give the data to me for a quick reward. Something real.
Someone has to be held accountable for these murders.
Justice.
Thank you. A civilization is nothing without justice.
There you are. Since the dawn of humanity, justice system have been into world and civilizationings. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just quoting one of my students from the past, or at least paraphrasing. I need to go up there eventually. All right, let's go back up to the port. Let's see what we can do. I've got a lot of skill points that I can throw into stuff. Combat tools. I don't have any combat powers. Not that I need them. Field Resurgence. Or increase damage after releasing it. I'm gonna go Shield Resurgence. I'm never gonna use Nova, honestly. Drain, Rem VI, Invasion. Offensive tech. Detonators. Tech damage to armor or tech damage to shields? Synthetics or detonator? Attack effect duration, sure. Force, sure. I'm not going to use constructs, really. Energy drain. Extra damage or team. Extra damage. Okay, Peerless Sentinel. Okay.
You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
Whee! I'm not allowed to do that. Oh, I definitely shouldn't have been able to do that. I did it anyway, though. Oh, man. This is fantastic. Let's go into the weird cage club. Hey, Dirk.
Mind my surveyor? Not yet.
Oh, I didn't go over that way. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was up in the... that weird corner I didn't go to yet. So, Dominic, how's that as far as an explanation of the previous question? And if that works, if that's pretty good, you had another question, I recall.
Right. Perfect timing. You saved me the trouble of looking for you.
Something wrong? Have there been more murders?
Nothing so morbid. This is actually a personal favor.
Okay.
A business rival, Zia Cordier, lifted cargo I was moving for a client.
You want my help getting it back?
We worked so well together on the Rokar job, I thought you'd be willing.
What did she steal?
No idea. Client paid extra for privacy. Considering my fees, it must be valuable.
You didn't check?
Honor's got a price. And the client paid it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's... okay.
How'd this rival of yours get hold of your cargo?
Her usual tactics. Got my middleman drunk, then stole his ship.
Sounds like you know from experience.
Please, I keep to a 3-drink maximum when I'm on a job.
Maybe, if I have time.
I'd like to get the cargo back before word reaches my client. Zia usually drinks at Krala's song when she stops in Kadara. I'll start there. Join me, if you can find the time.
I got time. Okay, let's go up to Krala's song then. Who's this? All Tartar staff. Upstairs, private rooms occupied. Okay. It's for Reyes. Dominic says, your explanation is super interesting. I think parallels the rise of paganism. Like the rise of paganism, like neo-paganism? Or like paganism? The video is a goldmine for content. I need to go back and listen to it. Wait, which one? Which one do you mean?
Okay, that's done. Still need to track down Reyes' cargo.
Watch yourself around here.
You staying long? Take it this beauty is yours?
The Tempest? Yeah, she's mine.
Hell of a ship. We don't get many like her. Colt Dalton, Kadara Docks Manager. Sloan said to make sure no one harasses you.
Really?
Awfully nice of her.
Uncharacteristically so. You must be important.
Neo-paganism. Okay, yeah. Dominic says, I had a friend who would say that Aristotle believed the ancients were materialists. Have you heard that? Some of them were? I mean, some of them were. It also depends on what Aristotle might have meant by ancients in that context. I mean, if he's talking about most of, so let me put it this way, most of the sort of classical Greeks, when they were talking about the ancients in that weird reverential sort of way, they're talking about Egyptians. And I think the Egyptians were, I don't think most of the Egyptian scholars and sages were materialists. I don't think so. But plenty of the pre-Socratics were. Plenty of the pre-Socratics were materialists. They thought that even things like souls were material, because part of the sort of pre-Socratic project was trying to determine what was the arche. In other words, the foundational substance from which all reality derives. And they all had different theories about this. Like, very, very famously, you had people like EU something, who thought that everything was fundamentally water, and that water transformed into the other elements under certain conditions and things like that. That sort of thing. So, yeah, that a lot of the pre-Socratic were, in other words, were materialists. But those are pre-Socratic sort of classical Greeks that I'm thinking of, at least. Okay, yeah, neo-paganism, paganism on Reddit, and soon to be everywhere. Yeah, it's all over the place. I see it all the time too. Like, I mean, Dominic says, I'm in a small south town. We have festivals here. It's common to see real witches and stones. Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time. I'm in the podunk middle of Florida, that part that's very far from literally everything, which is very nice. I like it here, and there's a lot of like good old fashioned Christians around these parts, but also you get a bunch of weird pagan witchy types. Not as bad as like when I was down in Tampa for college. There were a lot there. One of my wife's old managers. My wife worked at a laser tag place, and there was one of her managers. He was very pagan, neo-pagan, like Reddit tier, cringy neo-pagan. To the point where he like he was obsessed with wolves, because I don't know, paganism, I guess. And he took off work Halloween night and called it a like for religious reasons, and he went to like the goth nightclub over in like down in Ybor City, and went to like dance parties for his religious holiday of Halloween, because it's spoopy time. Shit like that. It's like, honestly, I don't take neo-paganism seriously from an academic perspective. Culturally speaking, yeah, it's a significant thing that we kind of have to understand to some degree, but in terms of its like its intellectual seriousness and its historical pedigree, there's nothing to it. It's purely empty. It is entirely a sort of reactionary, call it edgy, I guess, response to the primary Christian culture. And, well, the primary Christian culture and the sort of counterculture of academic, intellectual, materialistic atheism. It's the kind of thing where they still want to be edgy and countercultural, and so they reject Christianity, but they feel like that a spiritual need that this kind of materialistic atheism doesn't satisfy, and so they come up with this weird nonsensical crap of, I will believe as my ancestors did, even though all of your ancestors converted to Christianity. It's a weird kind of cultural trend, I think, but it makes sense sociologically. Certainly it doesn't make sense intellectually, sort of theologically or whatever, but it makes sense culturally speaking in terms of sociology.
Does Kadara get a lot of traffic?
Since we moved in? Oh yeah. Kadara is one of the few planets in Helios with a functioning economy. Got Angara and exiles from all over Helios moving their cargo through this port.
How safe is it here?
Safety's a commodity on Kadara. It depends on how much you're willing to spend. The port's gun-free, but murder comes in all shapes and sizes. Still, better than living outside the mountain. It's no man's land out there.
For now.
Thanks for your time.
Just got to develop it now.
Back to work.
Especially now that the groundwater's getting cleared up. Tracking number... What's Core up to?
Guarding the Tempest?
The Nomad. Got some attention when we disembarked, and it's a lot more portable.
Yeah.
Seems smart. Only 3 attempts to steal it so far, and 1 offer to buy it.
What was the offer? Just so I know how much I'm driving around.
Negotiations fell apart when he asked if I came with the car. Weird. Must have been something I aimed.
Yeah, understandable. Keep up the good work. All right. Let's see.
When the initiative failed us,
Dominic says neo-paganism will merge with AI. Interesting. I'm not saying we'll see a return of the old gods, but it won't be some arbitrary idolatry. I worship football. It'll be something much more connected to the weird and the passions. I mean, we see that kind of paganism too. It's that kind of paganism, the I worship football thing. It's not just football. That is the rise of secularism per se, and that's an older thing than neo-paganism. Neo-paganism's weird new thing of the last 100 years. The kind of I worship football secularism, which is I worship football, or I worship the state, or I worship the culture, or I worship the particular celebrities or musicians or whatever. Cultural worship, the strictly secular cult, that's older. That's Enlightenment, and I've written articles about this as well. That this is basically a resurgence of ancient Roman paganism, rather than sort of Norse or even classical Greek paganism. Roman paganism, especially Roman imperial cult paganism, was not about the truth of the particular claims, say, of the gods. It was about its particular socially unifying aspect. Just like, the cult of the state today, or the cult of football today, that yes, we all worship different teams, so to speak, but we participate in this group activity that channels our social disagreements into a sort of healthy outlet that isn't destabilizing for society. And that was the role of authorized religion throughout the Roman Empire, the imperial period of Rome, particularly, at least until the establishment of Christianity in the 4th century. But yeah, that was really that was why there was emperor worship and such, and that was why different gods were brought into the Roman pantheon from all over the world, all over the known world at least, was so that, yeah, you can worship your god. That's fine. Cool. You can even dislike other people's gods. That's fine too. So long as you're willing to bend the knee to Rome. In other words, your society. And you're a Roman first. You can have your little cults, because your little cults are part of something greater. And again, it's a sort of the whole purpose of ancient Roman paganism, Roman imperial cult paganism, is social unification, social unity. And that's what we see today with all of the various sorts of secular paganism. Dominic says, and when I say it like that, maybe we will start to see Return of the Old Gods. I mean, yeah, through AI. Yes. I mean, the internet is made of demons, after all. Not exclusively. The internet's also made of angels and also made of humans. But it's definitely made of demons in part.
Pathfinder.
And what are old gods but demons?
I'm uncomfortable here. I'm trying to be cheerful, but I'm not doing a good job.
Shh, Jarl, keep your voice down.
Why? I am not ashamed of my feelings.
What? How was that? That was a weird exchange.
What can I get you? Don't say surprise me.
Whiskey. Neat.
That's the only way we serve it.
Really? Like, no mixed drinks? It's weird. By the way, I have a Rob Roy tonight. Now, I wasn't feeling like a beer, so I went with a Scotch cocktail. This is Scotch, vermouth, and bitters. It should be garnished with an orange rind. It really just gives a nice snap, but I didn't have an orange rind on hand, so I had to go with orange bitters, which is fine. Probably my favorite cocktail.
You look like you're waiting for someone.
One of my favorites, at least.
That's my line.
You want a drink or a room?
Information, actually.
That'll cost you more than a round of drinks.
My friend's good for it.
You still owe me for the last time.
Fine. It was just a joke.
Yeah, okay.
I've got a bottle of Elasa I'm willing to part with.
What do you want to know?
Zia Cordier. She been around recently?
You mean your ex? Yeah, she was here.
You never mentioned Zaya was your girlfriend.
She's not. We drink together sometimes. I drink with a lot of people. Anyway, she was here?
Yeah, met with a Solarian. Shifty guy I'd never seen before. Maybe it was the charlatan.
Anything's possible. You overhear their conversation?
They were planning to meet someone at Spirit Sledge.
Thanks, Umi.
Whatever. You didn't hear it from me.
If you check the meeting spot, I'll follow the collective lead. Doubt Zia was meeting the charlatan, but you never know.
All right.
I'll call you when I get there.
Thanks, Ryder.
Yeah, lol, segs humor. Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit, but
That was the strongest drink I could think up. You really feel nothing?
Nope. Honestly, I just need ring call.
That's boring. Let me get creative. Bet I can mix you something you'll like even better.
all right. It's also interesting. It's kind of weird and funny that sexual comedy is its own psychologically distinct category of humor. Because the major categories of humor are expectation violation, broadly speaking, Schadenfreude, or whatever you want to call it. So, laughing at misfortune. So, sexual comedy, which is its own category, and wit, so puns and such like that. And those are the big ones. Those are separate categories, though. Like, sexual comedy is its own separate category because of a particular kind of reaction we have to sexuality, and because I think, at least primarily, because it's such a fundamentally human activity. It's so definitive of who we are, both as animals and rational animals, that it winds up being easy to make it fall into any of those other categories. It's easy to be witty about sex, particularly because you need to be witty in sort of courtship, broadly speaking, whether that's courtship or whether that's just flirting. It falls into expectation violation because we have certain expectations that we ought to have about sex, but also certain expectations that we actually have about sex, which are different from each other. And so either joke that you make winds up violating expectations. And then also it falls into the sort of Schadenfreude aspect because, well, what are we more insecure about than our sexuality as a species? Basically nothing. Now, I might say as a species, or maybe it's as a culture, because that's another option. that maybe these are not stable categories. These are categories within our particular culture and our particular time period, and maybe again, different times and different places, those categories might shift around a little bit. Sexual humor might not be its own kind of thing, its own separate category, and might just fall under the others if it functions at all. I don't know enough about sort of cross-cultural comedy. I should, actually. It's a really interesting topic. Sort of psychology and history of humor. Comedy and whatnot. Like, I'm interested in comedy, particularly in the ancient world. Like, great example of this. I've read a lot of classical Greek comedies, a lot by Xenophanes, and even Plato's attempts at comedies, like the Symposium. The Symposium, which a lot of people take seriously because they think that everything Plato wrote was serious. The Symposium is a comedy. The whole thing is meant as a parody of a bunch of other different writing styles. And so, especially things like the character Xenophanes, who was a comedian, he was a comedy playwright. His story about the origins of true love, which a lot of modern people, for some idiot reason, take seriously, think that they actually meant this, meant things about this, like the whole, we used to be one, but then the gods split us in half, and the whole finding one's true love is finding one's other half. The whole phrase, one's other half, comes from this dialogue, which was a parody of Xenophanes, who was a comedian. That's all that was. And then the scene where who was it? Aristophanes? No, not Aristophanes. No, it was Patroclus? Not Patroclus. How was it? The young lad who was known as the most handsome boy in all of Greece, who had just won an Olympic championship and all that, is trying very desperately to get under gross, ugly old Socrates' toga. And he's like, no, stop it. You're embarrassing yourself, child. That whole thing is absolutely hilarious if you read it with comedy in mind. And quite frankly, so is the Apology. There's a lot in the Apology of Socrates that's really funny, if you are looking for the humor in it.
You know, Kadara
Anyway.
ain't half bad. Nexus.
But we're prone to miss it. Prone to miss the comedy, I think.
Why do you drink here instead of Tartarus?
This place has Umi. She gets me. Huh, or at least she keeps pouring.
Okay.
How does this place stack up to the Krogan colony?
Hard to compare. The colony's ours. It works for Krogan. But these exiles are onto something here if they can just get along.
It's a big ask, and it kind of, honestly, if they can just get along, is kind of the big problem with exiles as such. People who either turn to voluntarily or have no option but to turn to criminality. This is the whole no honor among thieves problem. That if you're going on the assumption that you and everybody else is unjust fundamentally, you can't work together on things, and your society is going to fall apart. And so you need something like a basis of trust, whether that is trust through law, trust through authority, or trust through common purpose or something like that. You need it, and it isn't here, which is a big problem. And honestly, it's a big problem for the Andromeda Initiative in general, because bureaucracy does not lend itself to high trust, or effectively imposed trust, either way.
I assume you have opinions about Sloane?
That's putting it lightly. Sloan switched sides, helped the uprising when she was head of Nexus Security. I don't like Tan any more than I like her,
Yeah, it's
but
kind of a big deal.
loyalty counts.
Who do you think the charlatan could be?
Anyone or no one, a lot of people would rather get behind a story than face reality.
That's a good point.
Don't have too much fun.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know it's not actually true, but I like the theory that the charlatan is not a person. It's just a group or a title or a figurehead or something like that. I know that's actually wrong. That's not actually who the charlatan is. That the charlatan is one person in particular, and we'll see who they are and who they interact with and all that. But that slums. Yeah, let's keep Vector and Drac. I like these two, especially for here. But yeah, I do think that, like I said, I think that God, I forget where I was going with that. Darn. There was something else relatively important that I wanted to bring up about this, but I forget what it was. Darn. Oh, it might come to me. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Let's go. We can establish our... No, we can't establish our colony. We have to deal with Sloan and the collective first.
No one's here. Meeting must have already gone down.
Let's look around. Maybe Zia left something behind.
Okay. Yeah, this doesn't look very promising.
Think I found something. Looks like a wire.
A wire? That's strange. Leading to that. To where else? Over here somewhere, maybe. It's over there. What is this? What is this? No? Okay, fine. Let's follow it over there, then. Strange.
Maybe this will get us inside.
Hello.
Here goes nothing.
Did it do anything?
Probably. I'm guessing it opened up that gate. Which, I mean, come on, we couldn't just blow it. We've got firepower. And a Krogan. Okay. Oh, just a data pad.
Reyes,
Okay.
I found a data pad with what looks like a nav point.
Huh.
Must be where Zia's hiding the cargo. Probably left that behind for the buyer.
Whatever happened to just going to a store?
Sloan takes a cut from all official sales in Kadara. Gotta get creative if you want to go around that.
No, it's tax
Did you
evasion.
find anything on your end?
The
All right.
Solarian is a fence. No direct connection to the collective. My guess is Zia met him to find potential buyers. Let's follow up on those coordinates. I'll meet you there.
Okay. Well, let's check it out. Yeah, it's basically just tax evasion. It's it's what smuggling has always classically been, which is just a way of avoiding, mostly a way of avoiding taxes. Sometimes smuggling is a way of avoiding prohibitions on products in particular. Right, so, for example, today, there's a lot of drug smuggling, and that's because drugs are legally prohibited. But usually smuggling is just is usually not strictly speaking criminal. It tends to be just a.
This area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining
It's an
interface.
attempt. So usually smuggling is gray market rather than red market. Right. So what I mean by that is, so there are four markets. There's the white market, which is legal and non-criminal. There is the black market, which is illegal. Wait a minute. Hold on. That's not right. What is it? The black market is illegal and criminal? Oh, no. It is, sorry, no. Okay. The difference between black market and gray market. Black market is the illegal sale of illegal goods that is still non-criminal. The gray market is the illegal sale of legal goods. So, avoiding things like taxes and tariffs and whatever. The red market is the illegal sale of criminal goods. So goods which are criminal in the terms in the sense that they have direct assignable harm to another party. Violence, it's trade in violence, illegal violence. Then the pink market is the legal sale of criminal goods. So the sale of legal violence. So military and policing when conducted by the state goods, basically state services, are pink market. So there's not four markets, there's five. My bad. There's four illegal markets, basically. There's four illegal and or criminal markets, plus the white market, which is the legal sale of legal goods, of legal non-criminal goods. Okay, so let me just go through this whole taxonomy again because I got it all wacky and mixed up. White market, the legal sale of legal non-criminal goods. The gray market is the illegal sale of legal non-criminal goods. The black market is the illegal sale of illegal criminal or non-criminal goods. The pink market is the legal sale of criminal goods. And the red market is the illegal sale of criminal goods. There we go. That's the whole list. Got it. I have a feeling I might wind up bringing that up tomorrow in class because we are reading and talking about Murray Rothbard. That might come up.
Empty.
What if this was all just some elaborate trick to get you here?
You mean there was never any cargo?
Bravo. I knew you'd figure it out eventually.
Great. Is this supposed to be a date?
You could never resist the big payout.
What can I say? I'm a greedy man.
Oh boy.
That's why you don't have any friends. You're selfish.
Skip the small talk. Why'd you lure Reyes here?
He's been taking all the good jobs in Kadara. It's gotten more than my attention.
So what? The local smuggling union got together and decided to take me down?
Something like that.
Shit.
Move in.
Oh, here we go.
Here they come!
Thanks, Drac. Dominic says, pink market sounds fun, then you show up. Yeah, pink market sounds great, until you realize that's like... The pink market is basically everything the CIA does. That's like running guns to terrorists kind of stuff.
I knew I wasn't popular, but I never thought the other smugglers would team up against me. Kind of flattering, actually.
Like, what's going on here, this is clearly gray market. Everything that's going on here, well, with exceptions, a lot of this is the illegal sale of legal goods, legal non-criminal goods, but some of this is the illegal sale of the illegal sale of criminal goods. So this is red market stuff. This was the buying and selling of mercenary type activities. Blackwater, yes, Dominic. Blackwater is a great example of pink market. So basically, it's legal contract killing and stuff like that. Legal war crimes, if you want. Yeah, Blackwater is distinctively pink market because it is aggressive warfare rather than, say, defensive services. Because defensive services can be either white or gray market. That's fine. That's just security. Like mall cops are white market. That's not pink because it's not criminal. It's not aggression. It's not aggression against person or property. Pink market could be something like, Blackwater is a good example. Gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's legal, right? So the pink market is legal, at least from the perspective of a relevant legal authority, even whether that legal authority is legitimate or not, or whether that authority has legitimate authority over a particular domain, whatever. It just needs to be seen as and considered legitimate within that realm, for purposes of it being a pink market. So yeah, legal war crimes, very convenient. Yeah, there's such a thing as legal war crimes. Happens all the time. All the time. Every president in my lifetime has committed lots of them. We know they're legal because they're not prosecuted for them. Instead, they get prosecuted for paying a prostitute, not to talk to people about it. We live in an absolute clown world. Insane.
They might try again.
Undoubtedly. But it's harder to kill a man who knows you're gunning for him. All that effort and no credits to show for it.
Story of my life.
You and me both.
Sigma market is John Wick.
Zia was a piece of work, but it feels wrong to leave her out in the open.
Wrong button. Sorry. Yeah, I don't understand the whole Sigma thing.
Go on.
God, stop.
I'll take care of this.
I'm trying to loot. All right, fine, whatever. You loot. I'll let you do it. I'll let you loot. It's fine. The Sigma we live in a society, whatever thing, I don't fully understand it at all. I don't claim to or attempt to.
This area can be
I will say though,
you can extract minerals
I haven't seen any. Did I see the first one? I don't think I've seen any of the John Wick movies. If I did, I saw the first one. It was a very long time ago, but I don't think I even did. But as I understand it, because he is retaliating against and, quite frankly, putting a stop to criminals, that would be gray market, what he's doing and what he's buying, like goods and services. The stopping of actual criminal activity is essentially non-criminal but not legal. So I think most of what he does and most of what he buys is gray market. I know Alpha and Beta. That's Delta is Super Nerd. That one I've never heard before, I don't think. Gamma is School Shooter. Okay. That's weird, but alright. I understand that Sigma Male is some kind of See, I kind of thought that Sigma was could also be some overlap with School Shooter. The wolf that rejects hierarchy altogether and goes lone wolf. Oh, that's just stupid though. The absolute rejection of hierarchy. That's just communism. Stop it. Stop being a commie. I mean, being an individualist commie, which is a very weird thing, but still weird. Yeah, don't do that. All right, let me see. What am I supposed to do here? No. Excuse me. Settling. Outcast leadership. Okay, I gotta return to the Tempest anyway. So let's go back to the Tempest. See what there is to do next. We have a lot of email to catch up on. Alpha, Beta, etc. has to do with their relationship with the hierarchy. Yeah, I mean, so does Sigma, I suppose, right? It's just that they reject it. I mean, it's silly, I think, but it's a thing. That's still a relationship to the hierarchy. Just because you reject a hierarchy, that doesn't mean that you don't still relate to it. It just means you're actively pretending that it doesn't exist. Or pretending it doesn't apply to you.
What's up, Ryder? Why an emergency meeting?
I didn't call it.
I did. Got some disturbing news while we were on Kadara. There's some tension at the Krogan colony on Eladin. It's bad.
Tension among Krogan? You don't say.
I wouldn't waste your time with this if it wasn't important. We need to go.
I agree. Nakmor Morta made herself overlord of the colony. It's weird.
No. Our priority is the Archon. We have to remain focused on his next move.
Jall's right.
I know dealing with so many unknowns is frustrating, but we need to hear each other out.
Well, as long as we're pitching stuff, I overheard outlaws on Kadara talking about activity in the Ramov system.
No, that's the system where the Turian Golden World was supposed to be.
Ramov? There aren't any viable planets there. Only an asteroid field with mining ventures run by criminals.
I hear Eladin's pretty rough too. Roving scavengers with nothing to lose.
Crap. No one fights harder than people with nothing to lose.
But now that we have the transponder, we're so close to finding the location of Archon's ship.
Yeah, but there's a lot going on.
Our goal is to create our home here. You never know how something might fit in. Anyway, get Callow the nav points for both Eladin and that potential Turian Golden World. We want all our options ready to go. Hey, I didn't say dismissed or meeting adjourned or anything. Meeting adjourned. As you were.
That is a great deal of gross disrespect. It's actually something that kind of bugs me. The lack of, well, I mean, quite frankly, the lack of any stable, solid hierarchy. It's really... The lack of any stable, solid hierarchy in throughout the initiative, but especially just on the ship, is really just kind of troubling. Commerce pods, gray market connection. Hey, look, gray markets, like I was just mentioning. Get some credits, improve prices, special inventories, raw materials, trade capacity. Heck yeah! Actually, wait. Let's see what else we got. Hunting parties, always paired. Ooh, extra consumable slot. That's actually really good. Ear to the ground, versatility. Let's go consumable slots. Yeah. That's useful. That's very useful. I'm going to wait to talk to Gil, because I don't actually want to talk to Gil yet. I'm going to go down to my quarters.
Pathfinder, you have new email.
I know. A lot of it. Dominic says, the rejection of hierarchy is the rejection of meaning. Yes, I agree, actually. I agree completely.
Crumbs on the deck.
You found them too? I think something's eating our stores.
Let's follow the crumb trail. Where does the crumb trail lead? Aha. Crumbs.
More crumbs. Going where?
I get to find the stowaway.
So the Turians kick out the Genophage, basically destroy our people, and they get a pat on the back and a seat on the council. And what do I get? A medal.
A medal? From who?
My buddy made one out of a piece of scrap and pinned it to my chest. Still got it somewhere.
More crumbs. Going where?
Is that more? Where are the crumbs? Where are they going? No. Oh, there's more.
Something's nesting here. Something that likes cereal. I wonder. We've probably got materials to build a humane trap and catch it.
Sweet. Go build a trap. Dominic says, I don't know much about Mass Effect. The writing seems eh. The writing, I will say, is a step down from the actual trilogy. It is not as good. Some of the character writing is actually really good, but some of it is kind of mundane. A lot of it is also very current year, and by current year, I mean current year when it was written, which was like 2015, 2016.
One trap, ready for a visitor. I'll leave it and see what we get.
All right, let's see what we catch in the cutesy little thing. But yeah, it's It fell into that trap of being way too contemporary to when it was written, which was a big problem in, well, when this was written, in the like mid to late onesies. Which was really, I mean, really pretty unfortunate. Because I think the original Mass Effect trilogy managed to avoid that flaw, avoid that error, even in Mass Effect 3, which did come out in 2012-ish, 2012 or 13 maybe? It came out when that was becoming a problem in a lot of media. It was starting to become a problem, at least, in a lot of media. It avoided that problem because Mass Effect always had its thematic roots and its aesthetic roots in the 80s. In the science fiction of the 80s. Things like Blade Runner. Like, if you look at a lot of the aesthetics of Mass Effect, you will find, like, everything is, for some reason, bright frickin' neon colors. Like, that Omni tool, that's everywhere. That color is basically the color of all of the technology. And that aesthetic of the big ol' heckin' explosive speech bubble thing, that aesthetically is spot on for Mass Effect. Basically everything to do with the series is a sci-fi from the 80s. It is bright looking future with dangers that with seemingly insurmountable dangers that we will overcome anyway. That's the whole aesthetic of Mass Effect. And that kind of got replaced with Andromeda with a lot of sort of current year aesthetics, and that was a big loss. It was one of I think the biggest criticisms of Andromeda that really sticks, because a lot of the criticisms at the time were it was really buggy at launch, which yeah it was, but they fixed a lot of that, and some of the gameplay stuff, some of the particular gameplay mechanics. They got rid of squad mate controls. And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem, I guess. But a lot of the gameplay stuff is just leagues better. So it compensates. But some of the writing problems are really significant. Dominic asked, what did I think of the Mass Effect 3 ending? I thought it was actually really good. Excuse me. Especially because I never played it without the extended cut DLC, which fills in some of the narrative blanks. Not all, but it fills in a lot of the narrative blanks. And I honestly think that I'll tell you what, there's a channel called Space Doc that I think has the best explanation of why the ending of Mass Effect 3 was phenomenal. And I will argue, agreeing with, I think, what Space Doc says there in that video, which, again, I'll link it in the description after the fact, after the stream's over. I think that the Destroy ending, first of all, is the definitive ending. And it's the only correct ending. It's the only ending that fits thematically with the series, that actually fits with the through line of what you've been doing throughout, regardless of whether you play Paragon or Renegade or some combination of the two, it doesn't matter. Destroy was the correct ending. Any other choice is a subversion of that ending, because one, walking away is trying desperately to sort of find a third option or an extra option when all the options seem flawed. It's the I don't believe in no-win scenarios kind of thing, which doesn't fit with the thematics of Mass Effect at all. And also doing it poorly because you wind up losing. You walk away and lose, even though the next cycle apparently does very well for itself. The entirety of your civilization gets wiped out. So no, that's not a good ending. So that's bad. The Control ending, the blue ending, is just the Elusive Man. You're just siding with the Elusive Man. And the green ending, the Synthesis ending, is, first of all, you're siding with Saren. It's capitulation to the Reapers. It's working with them. But then also, it is everything that Mass Effect 2 is telling you not to do. Especially your conversations with Morden about the Collectors. When he's talking about everything being replaced by tech. That we have to be ready for an advancement like that. And it has to develop organically, so to speak. Not literally. Not like technological advancement has to occur organically. And if it doesn't, then it's going to lead to problems. And guess what? Suddenly infusing all biological organisms with tech is going to lead to all sorts of stagnation and problems in society. Of course it will. And so again, this is just ignoring the lessons of the entire trilogy. Unless you do what you set out to do in the first place, and you destroy the living hell out of the Reapers, accepting what casualties you must accept. Casualties in warfare that have accepted their being casualties. The Geth were willing to sacrifice themselves for this victory. You have a conversation with Edie that she is not only willing but accepting of the idea of sacrificing herself for the sake of victory, for the sake of saving the lives of the people around her that she has come to actually care about. And if she is really a person, which the game seems to indicate so, yeah, that is a respectable decision. And to say, no, I will not sacrifice you. I will not allow you to die. Instead, I will allow all of everything to die, or heinously change every being in the cosmos. No, not acceptable. Not acceptable losses. Anyway, yeah, it's the red ending, the Destroy ending, is the only good ending. You also know this because it's the only ending in which Shepard can live, so they give you a little reward for making the right choice. But I think that the choice being do you make the right choice or do you make the wrong choice? And it not just being explicit about it. Like, aha, you chose the blue ending. I guess you were indoctrinated all along, hardy har. I mean, maybe that's the implication, I suppose, but I've never really bought into the indoctrination theory. I just think that the Destroy ending is the right choice. And that making another choice is, you're seeing horrible consequences of it. So, anyway, yes, I do think that the ending of Mass Effect 3 is actually very good. Especially if you don't think of it as, well, my choice of which of the three of these will matter, and I want to see the consequences of that major choice. Like, no. There's one good ending. And if you don't choose it, you're making a mistake. You're not getting the right ending. So it doesn't really matter so much what the big differences in terms of your choices might be, because that's a big complaint about the ending of Mass Effect 3. And I do think that it's a phenomenal ending to a great series of games, and that Andromeda had the potential to be a very good spin-off with some flaws, but those are flaws that could have been corrected if they had done as they probably should have and released a sequel and or even just DLCs. Like, the biggest problem, I think, with Andromeda is that it was It was made as the basis for a continuation of the series in a new direction with new sequels, with DLC, and all of that was dropped because of the bad critical and audience reception at release, because of predictable problems, mostly having to do with technical issues, like the whole facial animations thing. That got ripped so hard that BioWare just dropped the whole thing. Reapers are perfectly analogous to the Nephilim? I don't think perfectly analogous. I can see the connection, but I think that they're more the there's a lot to the Reapers symbolically. There's a lot to the Reapers. I can see the Nephilim connection. See where you're going with this. But I think there's also the we're paying for our own hubris aspect to the Reapers, because the uprising of synthetic life. There's also the threat of the dark unknown, the monster past the stars kind of thing. That is that to the Reapers. There's also the enemy that cannot be reasoned with is a major symbolic aspect of the Reapers. That's an actual thing. It's the enemy that is nature, essentially, or nature-like, or pseudo-natural. And I think that, yeah, I think that there's a lot to the Reapers, and they make a really fascinating enemy. That's it. I think the Ket do too. There's a lot of potential to the Ket as a really cool antagonist. That they're basically a sapient virus, which is very cool. You really think perfectly analogous? Argue. Say more. I want to hear an argument for this. We have 10 minutes left, but I'm willing to go a little bit late because I did start a little bit late. Technical. All right, go for it. I want to hear this. I am willing to hear you out here, because for all I know, maybe you're right. I want to hear this. This could be really good. You might change my mind here. Okay, so Ryder had a breakthrough on the location of the Asari Arc. Please come talk to me on the Tempest ASAP. All right. We'll probably start with this next time, honestly. Thesis, please. Wait, hold on.
Thesis, please.
Yeah, we'll start with that next time, the Asari Arc. All right, from Vetra. Ryder, an encrypted message came from Sid. She wants to talk to us. Sounds urgent. Gonna need you for this one. Swing by when you can. All right, we'll do that too. Another loyalty mission. This one's on the Turian world. Meeting with Aksul. This is another loyalty mission. Oh my god, we're gonna have to do a bunch of squad loyalty missions next time, aren't we? Jal expressed that you wish to meet with Aksul. It has been a long time since he and I spoke, but was so changed by the Ket, it was difficult to talk to him. But perhaps enough time has passed, and together we can reason with him. I've arranged a meeting at my laboratory on Aya. He's coming your earliest convenience, most safer. Right. Yeah, go for it. I want to hear this. I really do. So even if you have to go before I really develop a thoroughgoing response, or just blatantly accept what you have to say, we'll see. I'm very curious. All right, from Rhea. Something interesting just fell into my lap. Call me when you have a minute. Okay. Got to lead on Arc Natanus from Avidus. I'm hearing rumors that scavengers found pieces of an Arc on a planet called Eladin. Might be nothing worth checking out. That's the Turian planet. Okay. Diplomatic efforts from Director Tan. When we left our home, we never planned on blah, 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 political nonsense. Embassy on Aya. I think you can learn everything. Do all you can to learn everything about them and their supporters. Better we understand politicals. Okay, learn about the Angara. Okay, from Sellers. One of the revolutionaries? I wanted to send my appreciation for clearing my dear friend Sanju's name. I hate to imagine the ordeal he was subjected to by the exiles who took him. But it does my heart good to know he will be remembered as a faithful member of this incredible endeavor and not a traitor. Perhaps now I can finally put the Nexus revolts behind me and start looking to future years. Sellers. Oh. Error invitation. Ryder, I must be brief. I hear my virus was a success and Sam is disconnected. Excellent news. We should talk in person. I've enclosed the nav point for our sanctuary in Kadara. The virus was only a first step. You could be a strong ally in future efforts. Knight. Okay. That's the what is it? Fireman? Whatever it's called. From Captain Dunn. Please see me on the Hyperion deck to discuss a sensitive matter from Captain Dunn. Okay, another one. Kadara Nix. Kadara Nix. This is Kadara Vetra's sister. Okay. I knew this isn't following protocol, but who am I? Because who am I to contact Pathfinder through their personal console, right? But I know Vetra will tell me I'm overreacting. I swear I wouldn't do this unless I thought it was something serious. There's just stuff going on here that doesn't really add up, and people are getting hurt. It's hard to explain. Can we talk in person? I'm in operations. Thanks. Sid. Okay. Another interview with Carrie Devesa. Okay, we'll do that too. God, there's a lot we're doing next time. Spread the word at Tartarus and in port of your expert handling of the Rokar. I only made a few embellishments and left out my involvement, of course. Wouldn't want to steal your spotlight. Wow. Interesting. One of my friends from Kadara sent a list of tips for surviving there. It's mostly common sense, but here are some gems. No one knows who the charlatan is. Asking is dangerous. Be really careful dealing with Sloan and anyone who works for her. Politics in Kadara, unless who's got the biggest stick and who's more willing to use the sticks they have in creative ways. Okay. Hole in the wall place in the slums and make the best cap of Kilua. Do not mix Kilua with other stimulants, no matter what anyone says. Humans only. Don't ask Umi the bartender to surprise you. Okay. Invitation diplomatic meeting from Nexus Cultural Exchange. Ambassador Isa de Navarre, the Ingaran ambassador, come by. Okay. Matriarch credits. Last time I was on Kadara, I met this Asarian Krallas who said she'd let me in on a little score. Apparently, there's this matriarch who came over on the Nexus, only she died in stasis. My contact says she's next in line for the old lady's credits. A lot of credits. And get this, she says she'll split them with me. Trouble is, there's red tape, transfer fees, and she's having trouble mustering up the credits to clear them. Asked me if I could cover the transfer cost. I tried to bring Vetra in on this, but she says it's a scam. I'm not so sure. Seems like a pretty good opportunity to me. Drac. No, Drac. Stop. Do not listen to the Nigerian prince. Nigerian princess. Whatever. From Drac. It was a scam. Do me a favor and don't tell Vetra. Okay. Oh, well, yeah. Okay. From Jel, writer. The Moshai sent me some news from Aya. Okay. Under her guidance, officials are again allowing study in the Aya Vault. Cool. Sounds a great risk, of course, so she's restricting participation to her brightest students under armed guard. Although she doesn't have your ability to interface with the Remnant, she wants to be ready to assist you however she can once a Meridian is found. These are interesting and exciting times. Jal. Indeed. This sounds bad, kid. From Drac. Thought I'd show you what Struck sent me. A transcript of an audio log that's got me worried about the colony. It sounds like Morta's cooking something up. Don't know what to think. Morta, stop arguing with me, Brink. Payback time for the initiative. They don't care about us. But they will. Soon they're going to know that I'm Overlord. And once I execute my plan, there will be no denying the Krogan rule Helios. Then they'll come begging to us. Okay, Morta, I'll get a team together. Gather everything we need. No Krogan bows down to the Nexus again. Yeah, that does sound troubling. Alright, and that's all of it. Alright, so let's see. There's a lot of quests. There's a lot of quests. Okay, so Dominic says, I'm rusty on the Reapers, but let me give the Nephilim descriptors and you pick which ones you don't agree with. Nephilim, hyper-technical, big body, afraid of the darkness. Afraid of the darkness? That doesn't fit with the Reapers, I don't think. Become the Flood. Nephilim are indicated to be a hybrid mixture. Reapers are literally a mixture of identity. True, organic and synthetic at least. They're also... I'll go one further for this. Not just a mixture of identity, but they're principalities in and of themselves. They are powers and principalities, basically. They're demonic in that sense. That each Reaper is, as to you, a legion, because it's a collection of minds, basically, of individual program minds, all working in concert to form something like a nation. Each Reaper, of course, being the technological embodiment of a complete species, of at least the genetic information of a full species. So yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll need to go back to Reaper lore because you mentioned something I had forgotten, which make them similar to the symbol of the alien. But I think it fits better as the return of the Nephilim. Enoch, Book of Jubilees indicate those descriptions. Okay. I don't know about the fear of the darkness. Maybe our fear of the darkness is something that's related to Reapers appearing out of the blackness of deep space. So yeah, but I will add to that yeah, the fact that a Reaper is in effect a legion of minds, a mind composed of a legion of minds. That's very, very demonic in those terms. So yeah, I'll give you that. Let's see. Let's see about that trap. Let me see. Lost and found, hot patch gun. Started to fix my boot. God. Mental wellness. Okay, from oh, just from the initiative wellness program. Okay, that's a little bit unnecessary. Gosan. Angar word of the day. Gosan. To cling or grasp. Say Gosan. Gosan Yavdar, adjective of being stubborn, to cling to a rock. Gosavar, the resistance. The resistance means stubborn, pig-headed people? That would be Gosavara. And yes. Ah. Tavum. Pleasant intoxicant stirred into hot water or fruit juice. Say tavum. 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 What's it made from? Is it sweet or more like beer? It happens you can mix it. What happens if you mix it with booze? Does it get better or do they cancel each other out? We need to do some scientific tests, maybe with some little umbrellas, PD. Love it. Gosh. All right.
Picture your favorite food. Now picture it in a bucket beside a barn. Would you still eat it?
Picture your favorite food in a bucket beside a barn. I mean, maybe. Did it catch anything yet? Or no? No, I guess not. Okay. Oh yeah, I think that symbols can signify multiple things. I don't think that's a problem. I think that absolutely can be the case. That a particular symbol can symbolize a bunch of different things. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem at all. I do think that the Reapers, there is a significant demonic aspect to them, and that transfers a lot over to the Nephilim, and maybe the Nephilim in particular is a separate layer to the symbolism. So Dominic adds Reapers hyper-technical, also collective intelligence, as we said. Right? Come from above. Nephilim were supposed to be 1/3 man, 2/3 god. God small g, which again tracks with the Reapers. Their knowledge came from above. Both stories are flood narratives. Very true. Yeah, I do think that Mass Effect seems to be the flood story. Yeah, it's the flood story. It's a little bit of the Tower of Babel as well, kind of. I mean, even think of the sort of the Babel-esque aspect of universal translators. Universal translators are common to the point of everywhere in the Mass Effect universe as well. Like even in between like languages of one person. Like it's implied that some characters that not all characters, not even all human characters, are speaking English. Some of them are just speaking other Earth languages, and it just gets auto-translated. That certainly applies to the aliens, because I don't even think Turians, like, look at their mouths. I don't even think they're capable of imitating human speech, let alone speaking clear, perfect English like they tend to. So, anyway, all right. So, if Dominic's got to go, I do too, as it so happens. It is about midnight. That was a great talk. I love the symbology of the Reapers. I'd like to do another deep dive on this as well, onto the symbology of the Reapers. Happy to keep talking about it because it's fascinating. They're really, really, really fascinating antagonist. But then I think also so are the Ket in this game. The Ket had a lot of potential. And they might still. I don't know. Who knows? We may wind up continuing some of the stories of Andromeda in the next Mass Effect game. I don't know. The implication from a lot of the devs' tweets have been that they're kind of trying to continue both simultaneously in the next game somehow. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe they're trying. Anyway, though, thank you all so much for joining me. I had a wonderful time. I hope you did as well. Despite the late start, we did get a good bit accomplished. We basically finished up with all of the main quest stuff on Kadara, and now we're moving on to a bunch of companion quests and side quests next time. So, if you like what I'm doing and want to help me continue doing so, right down there you'll find a donation link at ko-fi.com/Professor McCoy. I always appreciate anything that you can send me. It does help immensely. It really does help me continue doing what I'm doing, and really help sort of expanding in new directions as well. So, With that, I am also hopefully going to be recording some of my classes this week. So I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about Murray Rothbard and praxeology and how that relates to a lot of the ethics we've been talking about. And then Thursday, talking about the intersection between ethics and religion. Again, going back to McInerney's text. So both of those should be excellent lectures. Hopefully, again, technology permitting, I will have those recorded and up sometime this week. So that should be a great discussion. Those should be great discussions, plural. I've got other ideas for some other videos I'd like to do, but those will have to come later because, again, I'm focusing on getting this class, these class lectures together, and hopefully you guys are enjoying following along. So I will see you guys again on Wednesday as well for more Kingdom Come Deliverance. And I will see you again next Monday as we continue playing Mass Effect Andromeda. Hopefully maybe even continuing this discussion or a similar discussion as well. I certainly had a great time with it. I hope you did as well. Anyway, that is all I have time for tonight. So thank you all one more time for joining me. I hope to see you again next time. And remember, don't be safe, be well, and more importantly, be good. Good night, everyone.